Buonasera, Bucharest. That was loud. If you were asleep, you're not anymore. Thank you for allowing me to do this in English because my Romanian is not so good. So yes, the future of work, lots to think about. There's an artist and a poet and a rapper called Gil Scott-Heron who said, "The revolution will not be televised, but the revolution is on TED." So I guess what we need to think about is the power we can harness in this room with the ideas that are coming through from fantastic people like Stefania. So I'm wearing my Stefania Druga badge. I'm number 1 in the fan club. And surprisingly, I'm from HR, and I say that surprisingly because it's not often people introduce themselves so flamboyantly as being in HR, because normally they're in the corner when people say, "How do we get rid of this person?" or "Can you work out my payroll, please?" But HR has a huge responsibility for all of you here in work, because work is too important to be left to chance. So I guess my take is, how do we reinvent work? And as a result of it, how does HR reinvent itself to become better at work? My life actually changed when I was here in Bucharest about 18 months ago. Has anybody in the room heard of CROSS, the alternative university? If you have, let me hear a whoop. Thank you, good. So I was lucky enough, apparently I was the second ever British person to go to CROSS. Fred is the other one. So he and I are the official Bromanians. But what I saw at CROSS completely changed my life, because at the time I had a corporate job, I worked in HR. And I saw what happened in CROSS with the energy and just the desire for learning and people thinking about their futures in such a controlled way. It got me thinking, what am I doing? Why don't I do that? And then I met these two people. They're in the room, Anna Marica and Catalina Contolaru. And they too changed my life. Because I thought there's something better to do with work. And Anna and Catalina agreed with me. And so I guess what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to change the world one conversation at a time, but I'm very lucky because I've got lots of people who help me do that. And it's a model that I hope the rest of HR wants to do. Because I haven't created a company, I haven't created an organization, I've created a community like CROSS, where people want to be there, where people bring their passion, not leave it outside the door. Because when most people turn up to work, they stop being them and they become a job description. And that's not good enough anymore. We care about what we do passionately. That doesn't mean to say you have to leave yourself outside. So I've got some theories that work is about to change for the better. So if you don't like Mondays, I'm going to spoil that in the future for you. And there are 6 ways that I think that's going to happen. The first one is, if we've heard a little bit already from Modulabs and the fantastic technology they're using. So work is about to be exploded in terms of accessibility and opportunity through digitization. And the way we make the most of that isn't that it's just in the hands of a few technologists, but it's all of us. So it will be digitized, but it will be socialized. So the digitization and socialization of work means we can say when we want to work, how we want to work through whatever device we have with us at the time. So the digitization of work expands the horizons, and opportunities like Elance and Odesk, where people can bid for work. So instead of work being something where you turn up and transact and do 800 repetitions of the same thing and then pick up your paycheck, work will be something where you can bring your heart and soul and your creativity and your energy to it, because work will be deconstructed from a job. So as well as digitization, that's the next thing I wanted to share with you, is that the job is dead, long live work. And by that I mean we need to find people who have skill and desire and energy and can learn. And we don't want to give them a job where half the things we ask them to do are not playing to that skill or that strength. So we need to find work that lets their heart sing and that builds brilliant products and creates great services. And on top of this, we need to be aware of what technology is doing to change how things are delivered and how things happen. So automation, artificial intelligence, and so on. And people are worried and scared and say, but all those jobs that people do, if they're digitized and automated, what jobs will they do? We have education, we have social problems, we have an elderly population, we need care, we need more ideas, we need more people who can do humanist type work. I also think we are now in an era where we are challenging the orthodoxies that we've been working to for so long. So who says a hierarchy and command and control ways get the best out of people, when clearly they don't? So if you look at CROSS with its self-organizing structure around learning, that's now starting to come into work. And I was at a conference this week where we talked about the meaning of work. And when people find their meaning, they don't need a manager to tell them what to do. They need an inspiring leader who supports them and then gets out of the way. So I'm predicting the demise of the manager. And then those managers won't suddenly be found on some scrap heap with a cup asking for donations. They will actually just redefine themselves and they'll find work that's more meaningful for them. I also think we'll see something where we've deconstructed jobs into work, we've moved managers out of the way, and I think we have a demand for craft. Those 800 repetitions I talked about don't have to be what we call work, when we can intersperse them with quality interactions and high volumes of learning activity that helps us take our companies and our organizations into the future. I often say to HR people that they shouldn't pursue a seat at the boardroom table. They should go and sit in the canteen where real people live and talk about the things that are challenging them and not helping them do their work so effectively. So I'm often thinking that HR should be an organization that doesn't sit in one place and that moves around with work and people. And most HR people look at me quite alien at that point, but I believe we'll deconstruct HR, but it'll still be a profession to be proud of, but we'll just work collaboratively in an agile way with people who are employed in an organization to do that work. So we'll see more craft coming through. And as I said earlier, we'll probably see the death of the hierarchy. So no longer will the pyramid be the only way to structure an organization. I work with 65 practitioners across the world. Nobody leads on anything. We all collaborate. We share our learning opportunities and our working platforms. We connect digitally, so people in the US or in Australia and New Zealand are as in touch as if you were hanging out with them in that canteen. So you can use digital to augment the sense of spirit. But ultimately what gets us there is in our hearts and souls, we believe in changing the world of work for the better. I'd like to give you 30 seconds now, if I might, because I want you to think about the last time you did something that made you feel so proud of your accomplishments and your achievements. Just for 30 seconds, think quite contemplatively about the last time you made something happen which was brilliant at work. And I've got my timer, so that starts now. Probably not great if you're watching this afterwards on video just to see me standing there for 10 seconds doing nothing, but hopefully you found something that made your heart sing, that made you feel valuable and brought meaning to what you do. We talk ourselves out of doing that every day. 30 seconds every day, you could just think, where did I make the most difference? And then you don't have the conversation when you go home to your significant other and they say, what did you do at work today? And you say, I did some emails, I went to some meetings, I did some more emails, I went to some more meetings. You don't feel like you've accomplished anything, but you can touch people's lives with the things that you do. So this community of people I've got is showing that there's an opportunity to work in a completely deconstructed, self-organized way, inspired by CROSS and fueled by people who believe in what they do. And if HR can tap into that energy, if HR can liberate people and not constrict them with policies and guidelines that box them in, then I think that's what the future of work will look like. It will look like something where Mondays you kind of sprint to the train to get to work because you can't wait to do what you do, or you log on at some extraordinary hour of the day because you've had the idea that would just break through and create something more meaningful in what you do. And if you think this is the stuff of pipe dreams, There are organisations all over the world that are doing this now. So Cross isn't the only example, although it's a brilliant one. You have Buurtzorg, which is a nursing organisation in the Netherlands who work around self-organising teams who deliver the highest quality and best financial returns from nursing you could ever find. And an engineering company in France called Favi, who are super specialists in creating gear parts for cars, who self-organise, who don't have any manager to sign off a request for parts and for time. And so these examples are coming up more and more and more. And I guess my responsibility as an HR practitioner is not to just be an HR practitioner. It's to be somebody who loves what work's about and helps other people love that too and find their meaning, find their calling. And if you have that 30 seconds every day where you think about the difference you make, use that to inspire you into whatever it is you do. We could all be entrepreneurs. I'm not necessarily predicting the death of all big companies, but big companies need to think about what they do to your hearts and souls and your minds. And the biggest problem we've got at the moment in work isn't anything about products or commodities, it's stress. It's people who actually have loved what they've done so much, it's running them into the ground, and they're not supported, they're not appreciated. So they end up doing what I did, and you go out and find your own way. And I think that job market is going to start to happen more and more and more. So in HR, we need to get used to the fact that not everybody's going to have a contract that keeps them there allegedly forever. It will be work that they've got skill and desire and passion for, and we'll work out how best to do that, when to do that, where to do that, and we might have that skill that we use in other companies and organisations. And so I predict that it'll be a solutions marketplace. It will be like eBay. A company will pose a problem online, and skillful people will congregate who've perhaps never even met and solve that problem. And I think that collectiveness is summed up by a brilliant thought leader called Don Tapscott, who said, "We're not in an information age, we're in an age of collective intelligence." And I just think how powerful we could be in this room if we commit to doing one thing that will improve what we do in our work and what other people are impacted by. And I think the socialization of work gives us an opportunity to bring customers into a conversation, to bring suppliers into a conversation, and to say to people, how can we make this better? We saw some fantastic examples on the clip earlier on, where you don't have to buy something that's produced and commoditized, or as some people call it, the IKEA-fication of work. You can make your own products and services, you can find your own way. And I think that collective power is something amazing. So the team I work with are all into the changing nature of work and end up going and working in organizations who want to do the same things, who want to liberate their people power. So if you're thinking this sounds like a democratic kind of pipe dream, it's come in. We heard it earlier. We've got to take control. We're the most empowered generation there's probably ever been. And don't be fooled into thinking that it's just all crazy kids who get this. Because although I don't look it, I'm over 40, but in my attitude to work, I'm probably more like a so-called Generation Y. So I approach it in a different way. So don't just label people by their date of birth. Just think what's their attitude, what's their calling in life, and try and line that up. And we've got a terrific opportunity to use some of the sciences we now see about understanding human motivation, about how to get that factor from people, that intelligence source and that passion. So I think the future of work is probably already here, and the quote from William Gibson is, "It's just unevenly distributed." But I think we have an enormous opportunity to create our own future. Why wait for the future for somebody else to dictate it, when you could start bringing it in and happening now? You could be part of a million conversations that actually change how work is completely structured. So I think individual power, the next big thing, is a million little things. And we can connect with people like never before on the social web and share what goes on. So my revolution prediction, if you want, is, as I said earlier, it won't be televised, but through mediums like TED and through social network communities, we will start to see a huge amount of change. And if you think that's not for me, then question what is for you, and how you do want to exist and live your life, so that you do fall in love with Mondays, that you do think when Friday comes, great, I can do some social things, but actually, what a week I've had. And look on it with a sense of achievement and accomplishment. And let's remove transactions from what we do, and let's do transformational thinking all the time so that we disrupt as usual. We're never satisfied with mediocre and just about right. We're always striving to improve what we do. And I guess the fabric that wraps around that is both our hearts and our desires, as I said earlier, and what we love to do. But learning is the thing that binds us. So I guess I kind of finish as I started with the massive impact that something like Cross had on me, which is it was built from learning. It was built from the love of learning. And the great thing about that is it's an endless source of energy. It's an abundant source of energy. So the more we learn, the more we have capacity to learn. The more we learn, the more we share with other people. The more we share with other people, the more they share with us. The more we create communities of spirit and interest, all because we let our curiosity fly and we allow ourselves to indulge in what has real meaning for us. So we've got some terrific opportunities here. So the future of work is what we make it. The future of work needs HR to be brought in and on board. It needs to be less transactional and more transformational. We need to disrupt as usual. We need to find a sweet spot that we call our own. And then we find work, something that inspires us beyond anything we could recognize. And when you see the work of Stefania Druga and the kids who just get on and build stuff, maybe then we'll find a lot more satisfactory ways of caring for each other and enabling us to build that better future for that next generation coming through. So I'd like you to think for another 30 seconds now, because I've still got time, another 30 seconds about what are you going to do either today or tomorrow, just one thing that you want to do, which is going to start to bring the future nearer to you, starting now. That was a video 30 seconds. It was only 10, really. But I guess we have to bear in mind our video watchers. So for my last 30 seconds, I'll just say that I was transformed by this place. And I think you've got an opportunity to transform and touch the rest of the world with what you do. And through the TED banner, it's been a pleasure for me to be able to share with you what the future of work is. So I hope I've spoilt it, but in the nicest possible way, that your future's down to you. You've got choice. It's entirely up to you. But you might need to make friends with a few people in HR to help you do that. And then I'll leave a happy man with the rest of my profession. Mulțumesc.